Yo, if you've been following the channel, then you already know I'm not a big fan of OnlyFans. No, not at all. Never will be. Never subscribed, never will. And I hope you as a man has never subscribed to any shit like that either. Let's be real. Porn is free. But no, let's move on to getting a little serious, right? OnlyFans, or OF as they call it, is definitely bringing down society. It is. I can go into so many reasons as to how it's bringing down society, not to mention, I always tell men that they shouldn't be using porn anyway, because it takes you away from your purpose. It makes things easier. That's the easy way out. Instead of you working on yourself so that you can attract the type of woman that you want, instead you take the easy way out and you go into the bathroom or you go under your blanket and you work it out yourself while watching OF. No, that's not what you should do as a man. You need the challenge. You need to be challenged as a man in order to better yourself. So stop using corn and stop subscribing to OF. That's all I can say about that. Now on the PBD podcast, they are discussing a 50% sin tax. Yes, you heard me correctly. A 50% sin tax for OF. Do you agree? Let me know in the comment section if you think they should have a 50% sin tax, because that would actually bankrupt OF. Yes, it would. And some of y'all will say that's a great thing. And then others, of course, will say, no, we cannot do that. We can't do that. I get it. Everyone has their own opinions. But when it comes to this matter, I think we should do what's best for society. You would probably agree if you're a reasonable person. Without further ado, let's get into this video and see exactly what type of conversation they are having. Before we get into it, though, I need y'all to do 3 things for me. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and share this video so someone else can do the very same thing. And if they don't, then we're going to send the PBD podcast after them.
Not happy about one of your ideas, and it got pretty heated. I told him, listen, guys, at least let him give his ideas here. Don't get too upset about it. The moment you came up with this idea that folks in OnlyFans in the state of Florida have to pay 50% taxes, a lot of Adam's friends were not happy. They were upset. They were furious that you're going to charge these guys 50%. Maybe for the audience that doesn't know this idea about OnlyFans, if you don't mind sharing it with them.
Well, young women in this state used to aspire to be business owners, doctors, nurses, teachers, and even devoted mothers.
That's a fact.
And now you have a disgusting, disgraceful platform called OnlyFans that encourages them to sell nude images and videos of their body on the internet to complete strangers. I want to be very clear. That is sinful. And so we're going to institute a 50% OnlyFans sin tax here in Florida. We are going to make very clear that if you struggle, if you need help, we're going to support you. But if you decide to reject that support and to continue down this path of degeneracy and allow yourself to be exploited by the OnlyFans platform, you're going to pay a 50% tax on everything that you make from OnlyFans. That is how you disincentivize and deter this degenerate behavior. And we're going to use the money, Patrick, to increase public school teacher pay. We are 49th out of 50, rock bottom in public school teacher pay. This is personal for me. My grandmother was a public school teacher for 20 years. I meet with them all the time. I met with one in Orlando the other day. She is living between the back of her Prius and a hotel motel situation at different places outside of Kissimmee. This is a public school teacher who teaches AP computer science, and she doesn't have the means to simply have a place to live. Now, look, I don't believe that housing is a human right, but I believe that you should be paid a dignified market wage so you can go out and remember, you're being rewarded for what you're doing in the school. Let's create a merit-based, performance-based, business-friendly way to pay our teachers, and this is one very smart way to fund it.
And I see exactly what he's saying, and I have to agree with him. I've always been one of those advocates for paying, especially teachers, a good wage. Now, I'm not even going to say a fair wage, a really good wage, because they are the ones doing what? They are the ones nourishing the mind of our young. That is the future. The young is what? The children are the future. I know y'all have heard that before. Why not pay the people, the persons that are nourishing their minds, that are feeding their minds? Why not pay them a good living wage? Why? Because it incentivizes more people to be teachers. And it incentivizes the teachers to do a wonderful job. Why not do that? Instead, you pay them a low wage. What kind of work do you think they're going to do? But then again, we all know that there's a certain system out there that wants these kids to do what? To be stupid, to be dumb. They dumb them down because it's hard to control smart people. Remember that. It's hard to control smart people who are smart enough to know that they hold their future in their hands. It's hard to control those people because they're all over the place. They know that they can create whatever they want, they can be whatever they want, and they can do whatever it is they put their minds to. And so you don't pay the teachers a livable wage. You don't pay them a great wage. Instead, you incentivize OF. You incentivize the young girls to be prostitutes online because that's exactly what they're doing and selling their bodies for $4.99. It might be more now from what I'm hearing, for $4.99 on social media or on a platform such as OF. Now, you tell me what a young girl is going to do when she weighs her options. Make millions of dollars after seeing some of these OF models come out and say they're rich, filthy rich off OF, or become a teacher, or go into a certain field that is not going to make them millions. Y'all tell me what y'all think.
On affordable housing and limit the number of units that can be Section 8s.
Agreed.
Which takes that supply away from that teacher who might otherwise find an apartment and a place to live.
Rob, is this she's responding to him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go for it.
Never in my whole life did I think that I would wake up and see a Florida politician trying to start beef with me for clout. So he's proposing a sin tax on bops where we would have to pay 50% to the state on top of the 37 I already paid to the government. And I would be more than happy to pay that if multi-billion-dollar corporations were also being properly taxed. But surprise, they're not. I never usually get into politics, but there are clearly better ways to raise funds from actual corrupt businesses in our country. I think that people also fail to realize that there are so many creators on this platform that do this job because they're struggling. So to tax them like that when they're literally doing it just to support their families is sad. I would much rather continue donating directly to people in need because we all really know where our tax.
By the way, she sounds like she may run for governor for Florida.
Now, if you're not familiar with who that is, I believe her name is Sophie Rain, and she's one of those OF models that comes out to say she's made millions of dollars, millions. I'm talking about like 43 million in 1 year. That's been debunked. They say that she was lying. She inflated those numbers, but she came out and said she made millions in 1 year. 1 year on OF. Now, your daughters are watching this shit, right? Watching people like her, looking up to women like her. What do you think they're going to think? They're going to get the smart idea to start selling their bodies on OF. And could you imagine your daughter selling her body on OF to strangers, to men, to 280, 350-pound old men who are sitting in their seats all day, pleasuring themselves to her pictures? You imagine that for a second. And she's getting $4.99 for that. You imagine that for a second. Instead of thinking about creating a family, she's posting pictures and selling her butt, pictures of her butthole on OF. Now, Sophie Rain, of course she's going to give some pushback to this because she loves to be incentivized to sell her body. She's one of those ladies that finds nothing wrong with it. She's living a great life. And we also cannot completely blame those young girls, those women, for what they do on OF because without the simps out here who subscribe to this shit, guess what? You wouldn't have OF. They would not be successful on OF, which I believe most women are not even successful. Matter of fact, I know for a fact most women are not successful on OF, but they go into that field and sell their pictures of their buttholes for $4.99, and guess what? It makes it harder for them to find a husband, a respectable man later on, and they end up with the losers that subscribe to their OF. And now they are on antidepressants, depressed when they are in their 30s, 40s, 50s.
Almost not like she's campaigning. What do you say about what she just said?
Well, look, I think young, smart, capable women can have better things to do with their life than bending over backwards and taking nude images of themselves and selling them for hundreds of dollars. 𝓂𝓶𝓃 makes $90 million a year. My message to 𝓂𝓶𝓃 is quit OnlyFans, or you owe the state of Florida $42 million, and we're going to use it to pay our public school teachers more. It's that simple. As President Reagan said, now is a time for choosing. Sophie, quit OnlyFans or pay your taxes.
She would be moving to Nevada or Tennessee tomorrow.
Good. We don't want her here then. We don't want her here. What does she bring to this state? And this idea, well, people are going to move. Well, if women who are going to engage in that degenerate behavior, who are going to sell nude images and draw men to lust, they're going to lead to the corruption of our youth, then why on earth would we want her here?
Well, I mean, that's the case. That's the case you're making, Tom. You want to say something about it?
Yes, and by the way, before people say, I'm not your defender and I'm not your PR flack, but I will say this. Before people say that this idea is terrible and unprecedented, New York has a tax on a pack of cigarettes. You know what it is? $5.35 per pack, driving the pack of cigarettes in New York to $8. Now, why do they do that? Because it was concluded that this product, tobacco, causes cancer and no longer represented the public good. And so an excessive tax was placed on a product that people said, you know what, we don't need this product.
And they still buy it.
So before someone says that this is unprecedented, look at what it costs to be a smoker in New York City. You pay $5.35, not 7%, $5 a pack. So this is not unprecedented for the United States to find a product that people think, you know what, there should be an excessive tax on this because this is not a particularly good product.
It's not.
And the idea is, if you raise the price on something, what are you doing, Pat? You are decreasing the demand. Look, it's going to be very difficult to actually outright ban this sort of pornographic content, as much as I'd like to do it, because you would run afoul of the First Amendment and the way the Supreme Court currently views it. But what we can do is we can use our tax system to incentivize the good behavior, the moral behavior, the righteous behavior, like getting married, buying a home, having kids, and retiring with dignity, and disincentivize the moral repugnancy, the absolute filth that OnlyFans represents. I would want nothing more than for OnlyFans to go absolutely bankrupt because of what we did here in Florida. And we are, sad to say, we are the adult content creator capital of the world. Let's have our young women aspire to greatness as opposed to online prostitution.
Well, listen, Miami took over 𝓃𝒾𝒹𝒄𝓈. They used to be 𝓃𝒾𝒹𝒄𝓈, but go ahead.
Yes, I mean, like, and by the way, I totally agree with all the stuff you're saying about housing. I love that. But with this, you really want to set the precedent of the state government being able to incentivize and disincentivize behavior with taxes. Like, what's the difference between like explicit modeling pictures and movies, and like there's a constant sexualization with women in every degree of entertainment. So I don't know, is this really like a battle worth picking? Because like it is a result of the economic conditions we're in. Like a lot of guys can't get the type of girl they want because of economic conditions, and a lot of girls see this as an opportunity to get ahead economically. So the cost of living thing I think is also applicable to this.
Well, I see exactly what this young man is saying, and I understand. I get it. He's basically saying that if the state is able to deter and incentivize people for certain actions, then what's going to stop them from overreaching? What's going to stop them from incentivizing and trying to deter another type of action or another type of job that they deem as immoral? That's what he's saying, because we all know that everything starts somewhere, and sometimes when you give someone an inch, they take what? They take a foot. So I get what he's saying, but at the same time, this type of degenerate behavior has to be deterred. There has to be some type of deterrence so that young girls do not go into this field, because I'm telling you, all it does is bad for society. It is bad for society. It's bad for families, it's bad for men, and it's bad for young women. And women, period. It's just bad. So you have to disincentivize them from going into that field. It's just degenerate work.
Of course it is. And for the very few women who are genuinely on that platform because they can't afford rent, because they can't afford groceries, just know that I'm going to be a governor who's going to help you do that. I'm going to help you get a great paying job. I'm going to help lower costs for you, not bring inflation down, Pat, but actually lower costs. But guess what? Economic struggle is never an excuse to participate in moral repugnancy.
It's not.
If you can't pay your bills, you can't auction your kids off. If you can't pay your rent, you can't sell your kidney to your neighbor. At some point, we have to draw the line, and I draw that line at pornographic nude content. I do not want our young women to be exploited. I am running for Florida governor to protect young women, to help them get great paying jobs, to find a loving husband, to raise kids, and when it's all said and done, to retire.
And I mean, what if they say though that they don't want that protection? Like, I assume you're a small government guy, right? Like you think big government or small government's better?
So I'm not necessarily a small government guy. I'm a smart government guy. I think there's a time and place for the government to step in. Look, people say government shouldn't pick winners and losers. Well, we don't let strip clubs open next to elementary schools. We don't let liquor stores open next to middle schools. So at some point, there are objective winners and losers that government leaders have to stand up and say, that's morally good, that's morally wrong.
That's true.
And I would always embrace that as Florida governor. And, you know, at the end of the day, this is pretty clear cut. I can't tell you how many Democrats, how many Democratic women have reached out to me and said, excellent idea. I support it 110%. Here's the best part, though. Sadly, Florida is what's called a closed primary state. We all know, mathematically, you can pull it up on Polymarket or Kalshi. The next governor of Florida, statistically, is going to be a Republican, 91% chance. Why? Because Donald Trump won by 13 points the last election. Ron DeSantis, Tom, you know this, won by 20 points. We have 1.5 million more.
In Cherry-Dade County.
Yeah, in Cherry-Dade County. We have 1.5 million more registered Republicans than we do Democrats. Let's be very honest. I'm going to bet the whole $950 in my campaign account. I'm going to bet the full $950 that the next governor of Florida is going to be Republican. What does that mean? The election in November doesn't matter, Pat. The election that matters is on August 18th. So if you're a Democrat or you're an NPA, an independent, guess what? You should be registering as a Republican so you can vote in the Republican primary. You have a choice between Byron Donalds and myself. That is the choice between New Florida and Byron and Old Florida and me. Unaffordability, AI data centers, higher electric bills, no property tax elimination, and all.
Oh, now that he said Byron Donalds, some of y'all probably don't know who he is, but I actually like Byron and what he stands for. He's a very smart man. He articulates his points very well, just like this man does right here. So it's going to be a close race, a very close race that I'm actually going to watch, and I'll report on it as well so y'all know what the turnout is. But he said Byron Donalds, and I forgot Byron is actually going to be running for governor of Florida as well.
All of the good that we are going to create together. We're going to create a movement for working families, young couples, and seniors. And Pat, the only way you can have a voice, the only way you can avoid being disenfranchised is if you register as a Republican by July 20th and vote in our Republican primary. Because if you wait till November, the choice is not really between the Democrat. The Democrat has no chance. Look at those odds, Pat. The markets do not lie. 90% chance the next governor is a Republican. The general election doesn't matter. It's all about the Republican primary. I hope if you even feel somewhat moved by that don't necessarily vote for me. At least register as a Republican. Tom, if I were living up where you were in New York City, guess what? I would probably be a registered Democrat. The same politics I'd have, but I'd want to have a voice in who the next mayor would be.
We were both in L.A., and we made a stop for gas in Texas.
Okay. So LA, California, I would be a registered Democrat in California. Not because I agree with those politics, but because I'd want to have a say in who the next governor would be. That's decided in the primary, not in the general.
It's a very interesting point you're making. And by the way, again, what I like is I like competition. I like debate because we'll see which best idea lands with people. When Trump came out and everybody was worried in 2015 what he was saying, all of us are like, wait a minute, a lot of Americans agree with this guy. They don't agree with the other guy. And it was a change. So we'll see what happened there. And FYI, we've had Byron Donalds on. We'll have him on again. Maybe even we'll do a podcast with both of you on to kind of go through some of the ideas. But I'm glad now the audience know who you are. And folks, again, if you want to support him, go to Fishback 2026 to learn more about his campaign, his ideas, and to support him as the governor of, and by the way, AIPAC in Qatar. Don't go to that website. I'm telling you right now. Don't visit it because he's going to give you a refund. Everybody.
This is the reason why it's important for us to do podcasts, do videos, do reviews just like this, because I did not even know about Fishback. Now I know about him. I actually like his 50% syntax on OF because the children are the future. And would you rather the children look up to women like Sophie Rain and become OF content creators, your children? Or would you rather that 50% sin tax go to the teachers who deserve a better living wage? Y'all be the judge. Y'all let me know what you think in the comment section. Once again, it was great having y'all here. Until next time.
If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content.